in Timor-Leste since December 2021. In fact, I have been too comfortable in Timor-Leste that I didn't realize that I'm actually the current dean of diplomatic corps. So I thought Monsieur Marco is the dean, but listen to the other dean. Time flies when we enjoy where we are and what we do. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Timor-Leste is currently led by President, who will also a well-seasoned diplomat and a Nobel Peace Prize. Give applause with the President. The country now enjoys the fruits of robust foreign policy, where it is becoming a country of growing importance. In 2024, last year, there have been frequent high-level visits by heads of state and government, such as Sultan Brunei, President of India, and UN Secretary General, and followed by the visit of Pope Francis in September. The number of countries have been established embassy in Timor-Leste are also growing. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, there are 19 countries have established embassy in Dili, with Singapore, Angola, and India to be the most recent country to do so. In the recent year also, Timor-Leste is also engaged more actively in international fora, including last year, Timor-Leste became member of WTO, and Timor-Leste also in the final state is bid to become a full member of ASEAN. As one of the youngest countries in the world, Timor-Leste is also prioritizing development and economic growth. Currently, the country is undergoing transformation from petroleum-based economy to more diversified economy. Timor-Leste also a land with vast opportunity to invest, and the country has been doing its best to improve the investment climate to support the development. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, since my assignment in Timor-Leste 2021, I have learned that the spirit of collaboration and cooperation is abundantly present in Timor-Leste. Development partners are working hand in hand with government in achieving Timor-Leste development goal. Ambassadors, let us work together to advance the interests of our respective countries as well as Timor-Leste. I wish you the best for our assignment in Timor-Leste. Obrigado, Barat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Excellency and distinguished guests, I have the honor now to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic to deliver the welcome remarks and keynote speech.
Please be seated. Excellency, I will not read out all the protocol obligatory names to save time, because our weather is unpredictable. With my brain, I will just say it's a real pleasure to welcome you all to this annual diplomatic reception. We love all our partners, all the embassies. We love more the embassies that are in Delhi, but also we love those who are based in Jakarta or Australia for taking the time to come. A special welcome to the non-resident ambassadors, your staff, and some of you have brought families with you. I will go through the remarks a bit quickly. The full text will be somewhere in the internet, so you can see. We are forever grateful for the unwavering support of the international community in helping us face the challenges of our long journey. I will share with you some positive points on the state of the union, so to speak, and share views probably inconsequential. You know, I'm not the president of the United States or Russia or China, and so anyone will take my views too seriously. But I will share some concerns. Here in this small country, we continue to enjoy real peace and tranquility, social harmony and cohesion, and political stability. One, we have zero political violence, zero ethnic or religious-based tensions. 99.6% of our 1.4 million people are practicing Catholics. We have a fraternal relationship with our Christian and Muslim minorities. If you listen to the Vatican side, it is listed. The Vatican has the largest Catholic population. But I have some doubt because we are 99.6%. But because the Vatican say they're number one, I say, okay, we accept it. We have a fraternal relationship with our Christian and Muslim minorities. We do not have a homegrown organized crime. But this is mostly has to do with the fact that we are generally a bit disorganized. And even our criminals are not very organized. Timor-Leste is not an aid-dependent country, but we still have immense development challenges. We are very grateful to all of you who, one way or another, directly or indirectly, have been with us, assisting us over the last 23 years. Since 2005, we have been able to finance our national budget through our sovereign wealth fund. A significant portion of the sovereign fund is invested in U.S. Treasury bonds and in other developed market bonds and equities. We are very dependent on revenues from our modest non-renewable resources. For 20 years, we have argued for the early development of the Greater Sunrise gas field via pipeline to Timor-Leste. A new political season in any aid-giving country or a major financial crisis, I recall the 2008 subprime crisis, always results in aid interruption in such a way that it can create extreme social and economic stress. We, like our brothers and sisters in the G7 Plus group, FPCs, seeds remain highly fragile. Not all the seeds are highly fragile, and we suffer the most from external shocks. We understand the decision of an aid-giving country anytime to suspend, review, and even terminate a recipient-to-donor relationship. This would happen following the subprime crisis in 2008. We nurture our relationship with each and every country, rich and poor, and this relationship is not quantifiable in monetary terms. Timor-Leste is not in anyone's debt trap. Our debt per GDP is about 16%, and not out to any commercial bank. And the borrowings were not for outlandish buildings or Rolls Royces. It's actually for my minimum, which cost $10,000. It's sitting over there. We have invested heavily in national and rural roads, bridges, schools, rural clinics, industrial, agricultural equipment, public office buildings, These strategic infrastructure investments are continuing. One of the most significant public investment was about 400 million over several years was in the power sector. Today, covering nearly 100% of the national territory. In 2002, electricity covered only parts of it. Another major investment was the 400 million PPP on the fully automated Tiber port, which you will visit Friday. But here our government has to urgently review the management operations. In 2002, we had 21 medical doctors. Today, we have nearly 1,300, mostly thanks to Cuban solidarity in the health sector, but also many Timorese doctors trained in Australia, in Indonesia, in Portugal, and China. Can you imagine, enroll in a medical school in China? The language in itself is a challenge, but our students have been there and they're doing very well in the medical school. In 2002, we had one PhD. Today, we have over 100 PhD graduates and hundreds with master's degrees, graduates from Timor-Leste University, particularly Delhi, but also throughout Indonesia, in particular, the biggest number, in Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, Japan, India, Australia, New Zealand, United States, Portugal, Brazil, and in some countries like UK. We had, in 2002, we had one public university with less than 10,000 students. Now we have 17 universities. The National University has 40,000 students today. Total university students around 60,000 in Timor-Leste. This is very high, and doesn't mean 17 universities doesn't mean necessarily that they are all of significant quality. I personally would prefer that they are amalgamated into 3, 4, or 5, rather than spread over 17 universities. Since the beginning of my mandate, I have made Timor-Leste ASEAN membership a national strategic goal. With Prime Minister Shonana, we agreed that Timor-Leste should attain full ASEAN membership in 2025. Toward this end, we worked ever harder. All sectors of our state and society committed to one goal, ASEAN membership in 2025. Our friends in ASEAN unanimously welcomed Timor to join the regional organization in the November 2022 Phnom Penh meeting and in the Labuan Bajo May 2023 summit. They laid out a detailed map for Timor-Leste full accession. Since May 2022, we have welcomed 49 foreign dignitaries, representatives of international agencies and intergovernmental organizations. In 2022, we had the honor of welcoming 17 foreign dignitaries, including those who honored me at my inauguration. Among them, President of Portugal, Sir Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, Governor General of Australia, Sir David Harvey, ministers, envoys, representatives from various countries and international organizations. More than 60 officials and the closest friends and neighbors from NTT attended my inauguration. The year 2023 was equally marked by high-level visits, including the Prime Minister of Portugal, Antonio Costa, now President of the European Council of Ministers, the Honorable Vivian Balakrishnan, Foreign Minister of Singapore, Australian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Ben Wong, Ministers, Senior Ministers from Malaysia, New Zealand, Japanese Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Force, Admiral John Aquilino. Additionally, we welcome delegations from ASEAN, numerous, particularly in the context of evaluating the roadmap implementation, and the CPLP brothers and sisters. In 2024, Timor-Leste was honored by the visit of the Sultan of Brunei Darussalam, His Majesty Haji Hassan Al Bolkiah, Her Excellency the President of India, His Excellency Secretary General of the United Nations, among other dignitaries. More recently, we welcomed Secretary General of ASEAN, Professor Kao Kim Hon, along with representatives of numerous nations and multilateral organizations. Only a few days ago, we welcomed the Deputy Secretary General, Director General of WTO. One visit touched our people most profoundly, that of His Holiness Papa Francisco. His presence in Timor-Leste was a blessing for our nation, leaving an everlasting spark on every Timorese household. Beyond the obvious spiritual significance and deep impact in our society, the Pope visit elevated Timor-Leste international visibility. It was a moment of great importance for our country, made possible by the efforts of many, among whom first and foremost Prime Minister Shanana, with his well-known, tireless, inspiring, hands-on leadership style, working day and night, non-stop, to make sure everyone was working at full speed on the Pope visit. Our much revered Conferência Episcopal Timorense, the Chargé d'Affaires of the Holy See in Dili, Monsignor Marcus Prizzi, they all work in an exemplary team with our government team led by Minister Tomas Cabral. Our security forces, intelligence forces, system, PNTL, FFDTL, assisted by our friends from Australia and Indonesia. Indonesian security elements, Australian security elements were here on the ground working with our people with sophisticated technology that they could pinpoint anyone moving in a kilometer away, they are following. Monsieur Marco Prizzi played a central role in realizing this great aspiration. After more than 6 years in Timor-Leste, our friend Marco, allow me to call you Marco, he was appointed by His Holiness Papa Francisco as President of the Labor Department of the Holy See, that is equivalent to the Vatican Minister of Labor. And if you know the Italians, they always protest against something. So, and even the Vatican, it does not escape this. So, but with his incredible experience, I know he will manage this role very smoothly. In September 2024, with Australian friends and others in ASEAN and beyond, we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the International Force for East Timor, Interfact. Interfact stands out as a unique diplomatic success, one of leadership and coalition building in ending a conflict. We had the honor recently of having among us the much respected Interfact first commander, General Peter Cosgrove, who later became Governor General of Australia and numerous other important functions. ASEAN leaders, Indonesia primarily, and I must emphasize this, ASEAN leaders, Indonesia primarily, deserve an abundance of credit for their effective leadership, so ASEAN leaders in Indonesia, effective leadership of peace restoration in Timor-Leste. It's not too well known, so it's important to repeat. Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, prompted, encouraged by Indonesia, by the then President B.J. Habibie, through who later became President of Indonesia, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, encouraged ASEAN participation in Interfact. So we had all these ASEAN countries on the ground. And Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore provided force commanders. So we had the force commanders from Thailand, twice, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore had the Fourth Amendment. Brazil, Chile, China, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, Portugal, and the US all contributed in so many ways to the much celebrated Timor-Leste success story. But in the middle of it, there was one strong Timorese leadership, our truest national strategist, Shanana, who, with others, the Camparigiano Kofi Annan, with Susilo Bambang and the then Foreign Minister of Thailand, who was the Thailand was the chair of ASEAN in '99. They were the ones who worked behind the scenes to pave the way for the Interfed to land in Timor-Leste with Indonesia's green light. So this, with the strong leadership from the Timorese side, Shannon, discreet, patient, intense behind-the-scene negotiations involving regional and global leaders, the conflict was resolved. Excellency, Timor-Leste joined WTO. We all know we find ourselves in a historic moment as we are ever closer to the gates of the Associated Southeast Asian nation. It was not easy. Sometimes it was frustrating. Sometimes ASEAN leaders made me think that God, much easier for anyone. You just have to be a good Catholic to go to heaven. To go to enter ASEAN is so much more difficult. And so the ASEAN leaders they probably think that ASEAN is actually better than heaven. So it's much more demanding. But it's very important that you pressure us because Timorese, we have a good or bad habit. Without pressure, we go very slow. So the last 2 years, I've been very impressed with how hardworking, fast our pace has become. Excellencies, we are located in a vibrant region with approximately 700 million people, most of whom young, a GDP exceeding 4 trillion, and we are determined to deepen the relationship, the integration in ASEAN, relationship in the region, but also forging partnerships in Africa, South America, Europe, and Asia. We continue to build an oasis of peace in an increasingly unpredictable world. We are multi-ethnic, multilingual, ecumenical, global. We are committed to contributing to peace, security, progress. Our strong bilateral relations and integration into regional multilateral organizations deepen cooperation in critical areas for Timor-Leste. We tend only to win, to gain in regional integration. We celebrate the continuing prosperity and deep ties that unite Timor-Leste and Indonesia. Our bilateral relationship is not defined solely by a shared history and fraternity, but also by dynamic and growing cooperation, which has brought concrete benefits to both nations. Indonesia plays a central role in our regional and global space, an essential part in Timor-Leste economic and social development. I would like to highlight a particular significant aspect of our partnership, the increasing exchange between our peoples, especially in the tourism sector. You might not believe, you would be surprised, that Timor-Leste is number 6 in the number of people visiting Indonesia. First is Malaysia, second Australia, third China, fourth Singapore, so 6th or 5th is Timor-Leste. In August 24, almost 70,000 Timorese visit in 1 month. Of course, most don't go very far. They go mostly to Atambua or Kupang, and I'm going to Atambua, as the ambassador mentioned. I've never been there. I heard through some people who are not Indonesians, some American tourists, Australians, they say, Tambua has one of the most famous Kentucky Fried Chicken shops. Yeah, and that's true. And so many Timorese, they go there on weekend to the KFC and they return with many shopping bags. So I'm going there as well. For one day, then I go on to Waikul Seafood. And Ambassador, you always travel, you always disappear from Timor-Leste. So I hope you join me in this trip. And the common border between Timor-Leste and the Tahiti is a strategic opportunity to drive economic and social growth in border communities. But you know, it's not only Timorese going to Atambua to do shopping. Indonesians from NTT, they come to Dili to buy Portuguese bread and Portuguese wine. Reconciliation and rejection of policies of discrimination and exclusion have been part of the rock-solid foundational values in the Timor-Leste relationship with everyone. Then my remarks go on and on, so I skip most of it because you can read, and because the more interesting is the Thais exhibit you are invited to visit soon. And I only would like to refer to the UN. Of course, you know, after 80 years, the United Nations Security Council is obsolete, unable to reflect the realities, the demographic realities, and the challenge of the world. In 2014, I was invited by Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to chair a panel called High-Level Independent Panel on UN Peace Operations. And that was supposed to review the doctrine, operational aspects of how the UN peace operations should be more celerity in setting up, in deployment, all of that, and to anticipate new security challenges. Well, we were completely overtaken by the new security challenges. So, and at the time I told my colleagues, 16, 17 of them, we may produce one of the best reports ever that will deserve a summa cum laude in any top university in the world. But like many PhD dissertations, ours could get dust also in a library. Worst of all, the fate is you get into the UN library. No one will do it. And so look at the world situation. Our report did some impact in the secretariat and so on, but not much, and that's beyond anyone's control. Not really. So, but I say we must urgently conceive a new structure for global governance based on justice, equity, shared responsibility. These are all noble sentiments. So it's easier said than done. We, Timor-Leste, we shall contribute actively to this conversation, partly through our membership in G7 Plus, as part of a global organization for agile states of the millions and tens of millions of people in the world, in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, Haiti. Other parts of the UN system may require more reforms. They have changed reform over the years. It's unfair to say that the UN is stagnated. No, the UN agencies have reformed, have modernized over the years. We have seen, I've seen with my own eyes, we've seen in many war-torn communities, I saw in war-torn communities, UN staff presence. They are the only visible presence, visible sign of our presence. And when I say our presence, I mean of all of us, because we cannot all be there. So they are there for representing international fraternity, international solidarity. In Syria, in Yemen, in Afghanistan, these are mostly the UN agencies who are able to be there. They are there for the people in inaccessible areas of violent conflict. So when I say reform, I refer mostly to the Security Council structure itself, not to the agencies. Over the past year, we have witnessed so many conflicts and some unheard. You don't hear the war going on in Sudan. According to the UN, the worst humanitarian catastrophe in the world today. Have you seen it in the newspapers? So, and the never-ending problem in Yemen, Myanmar, etc. Children are always the most defenseless victims, exploited, trafficked, and killed in conflict. Our solidarity goes to all of them. Here I refer in a bit lengthy to Myanmar, but you can read it. And I refer substantively to the Human Fraternity Declaration, the document on human fraternity, which was elaborated by His Holiness Papa Francisco and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Cairo, when the two great leaders met in Abu Dhabi, 19 October 2019. That was the first time His Holiness Papa Francisco set foot in a country in the Arab Peninsula. And that's when, working obviously behind the scenes with people from UAE, and they produced this historic document. Even before my swearing in as president, after I was elected, I was the one who walked over to our national parliament, talked to them, parliament, please pass a resolution adopting this document as a national document. They did unanimously. Then our government, nice government, with the Minister of Education, we have been working on adapting this document into school curriculum so that it becomes part of our teaching in schools. Excellencies, under the leadership of President Kairala Shanana Guzman, we managed to overcome conflicts in the past, build a robust democracy, and we have labeled the most democratic country in Asia. And I feel bad because every time I have to cite this, I have always apologized to Asian friends because someone else telling that we are the best democracy in Asia. We repeat it, and I'm sure the Malaysians are not very happy to hear that, or Indonesia, but I'm citing international report, and we are ranking in media freedom in 2023. We were ranked number 10 in the world. Allow me to say where Germany was. Germany was 20 or 30 something. I know UK 26, France 27, Australia, my apologies to Ambassador, 30 something. US, my apologies to Ambassador, it's number 40 something. Indonesia, I most profusely apologize, number 80. But this 2024, some conspiracy brought down our ranking from 10 to 20. And in 2011, 2023, we are even better than New Zealand. New Zealand was behind us. Now we are behind New Zealand. But I'm very happy we're still ahead of France and the UK. And so this is only to say, in spite of all the challenges, the difficulties, we remain true to ourselves. This country has to be living in peace, in fraternity, in absolute freedom. So now we are hosting a Thais exhibition as part of today's program, a vibrant reflection of Timor-Leste's rich cultural heritage, and as you know, our Thais, the weaving of Thais, recognized as intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO. So you will see, and I have to acknowledge here Mrs. Seo Lopez. She is the force, the brain behind the promotion of ties. So I'm grateful to all of you, ambassadors, resident, non-resident. A credit to Timor-Leste to join us here today. And I will join you Friday on a trip to Likisa, not too far. Initially, we were going to Same, cross over the Central Mountains and down to Same. But it was Prime Minister Shannon who meeting with me the other day advised against going to Same because of the heavy rains, thick fog, and he didn't want to hear of any road trouble. And so we decided to move to Likisa, only 1 hour away, and probably no rain. I thank you once again, and wish you the very best in 2025 for your respective countries, your people, for yourself individually, for your spouses, your children, and the staff and the embassies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And we ask Mr. President to remain in place. Excellencies and distinguished guests, the President of the Republic will award the Medal of Order of Timor-Leste, Great Medal, to Her Excellency Ambassador of the United States of America, Donna Ann Welton. Now I invite Her Excellency Ambassador Welton, please take forward.
Like our friend Marco, Ambassador is leaving soon back to the United States, a career diplomat, many years, reaching glorious retiring age, so leaving us.
We will proceed with the reading of the decree law of the President of the Republic on the award.
Decreto do Presidente da República, número 10/2025. Condecoração da Senhora Embaixadora dos Estados Unidos da América, Donna Ann Welton, com o grau polar da Ordem de Timor-Leste. Reconhecendo os serviços prestados pela Embaixadora dos Estados Unidos da América, residente em Timor-Leste, Senhora Donna Ann Welton, cujos esforços beneficiaram muitos timorenses ao longo dos anos, merecendo ser conhecidos e valorizados pelo Estado. Face ao exposto, o Presidente da República, nos termos do artigo 87, a linha J, da Constituição da República Democrática de Timor-Leste, conjugado com o artigo 2 do Decreto-Lei nº 20/2009, de 6 de maio, decreta. É condecorada a Senhora Embaixadora dos Estados Unidos da América, Donna Ann Welton, com o grau polar da Ordem de Timor-Leste. Publica-se o Presidente da República, José Ramos Horta, assinado no Palácio Presidencial Nicolau Lobato Eguili, no dia 18 de fevereiro de 2025.
Followed by Inarasbisian Code. Inofficial Code. Thank you, Mr. President. This concludes the award ceremony. May I invite Mr. President and all the guests proceed to the opening of the ties painting exhibition at the Salon Papa and Salon Sina. Ladies and gentlemen, in meanwhile, please enjoy the cocktail and the rest of the evening, and thank you.
I hand over to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to receive you at Presidential Palace. President and including like for a diplomat. These things we need to see here. Sorry, the women that are here. The pieces that you see here are from the 6 major ethnic linguistic groups. It's Batu, Makasai, Tenderi, Ema, Baigenu, and Kuru. So, if we go by the municipalities, every municipalities have 3 or 4 ethnic. So it's impossible to represent all the municipalities here. But these 6 main groups cover from Lauten, Oecusi Rayoa, Ovarima, Tetuteri Ovarima, Tetuteri Bigebe, Makasai Baukau, Makasai in Makasai in Los Palos, Makasai in Keke, Makasai in and then, so there are similarities. They speak the same language with some varieties, but the ties are the identity of the ethnic linguistic groups, not the municipality. Then you probably have 5, 6, 7 ties representing only one tie, but you will have special ties, money, defense, one cross, weapons, so we have the labels because this is the president's museum. So we inserted ours as best as we can. The labels, unfortunately, some are at the bottom, some are on the side, but we have 4 or 5 staff here from Timbre that will guide you, for those who are interested, to explain the pieces that you like to see. Thank you very much, and welcome.